have a problem with everyone going on podcasts and talking about everyone. It sucks, dude. It just sucks. Like when I see some comic go out and talk about some other show that a comic's on, or somebody's bashing another comic that they came up with, or they're talking about how they don't Kill Tony.
But Chris, name no good comics are doing that. I haven't seen one like legit comic talk shit on another one like
there are no
in public.
All right, so we have Brendan Schaub, Eric Griffin, and Chris D'Elia trashing comedians for trashing comedians. And the lack of self-awareness here is amazing. Like Brendan says there's no good comics that talk shit about other comics. Well, Chris is talking shit about comics. And Chris, he also says he doesn't like when comics talk shit about Kill Tony. But the whole premise of that podcast is comedians roasting struggling comedians.
You know what's funny about this whole thing that they're talking about, like Chris D'Elia and Brendan Schaub of all people, is that the reason why they can't talk shit is because if they do manage to talk shit about whoever or whomever, whichever comedian, there's so much dirt, there's so much, a lot of stuff on them that you don't even have to focus on the comedy to make fun of Brendan or Chris D'Elia, for example. And these guys know that they cannot easily or maybe sort of go the same route as any other comedian that wants to critique somebody else, a fellow comedian, basically, because what's so funny about it is like they're just speaking their mind. Everybody just speaks their mind, but all of a sudden now, no good comedian speaks their mind. That's crazy, because if no good comedian or whoever, or a comedian that you think that's very low rated, if they talked about anybody else like that in that sort of way, a lot of people are not gonna care who that guy is or what their opinion is about them, because they're like, yeah, I mean, but who are you to talk about these popular comedians? But usually it is the popular comedians talking about other popular comedians that are not really so popular publicly, and also, stand-up comedy wise, Brendan is easily one of the biggest targets, and Chris D'Elia as well too, based off of his prior specials too as well.
So apparently making fun of Tony, one of the most successful comedians right now, is out of line, but Tony making a career out of trashing no-name comics who are barely scraping by is fine, and people like Rogan regard him as one of the best roasters alive. And it's funny, they act like it's better to be punching down for some reason, because I guess if you're trashing somebody doing better than you, that means you're just jealous. Like Chris complains about comedians who make a living talking shit. He's like, that's all they do, and they have to keep it up because that's the only thing they're good at, which is so ironic because it sounds like he's describing Tony. But then right after that, as an example, he brings up how he heard some no-name comics making fun of Kill Tony on a podcast. So Tony can make a living and become one of the biggest comics by humiliating open micers. That's fair game. But then when open micers make fun of him, that's too far. Also,
this is just sad. Like it's always been said that comedians, stand-up comics are so sensitive, man. I guess maybe you don't think that, oh yeah, because they're not comedians, it's not their profession, why should they be making fun of us? Is a ridiculous thing to say. It's all good for you, the comedian, the professional, to make fun of anybody else, but when it comes down to you, we can't do that because of some sort of dumb reason, right? That's so stupid.
So Chris brings up how Bill Burr is above criticizing comedians, but he's been calling out comedians a lot recently. And it's funny, the one time he was on Kill Tony years ago, he hated it because of what I just described here. He felt like Tony was punching down too much, and he just thought it was cringy and lowbrow humor. So he kept calling him out on it. So if Chris really hates comedians talking shit about other comedians and talking down to them, you would think he would hate Kill Tony.
Well, right. There's look.
Nobody that you respect.
No, you can argue that, obviously, there are comics that are above it. Like Bill Burr, Chris Rock, the big guys, but they're above that. But there are people who are.
That's just let's make exceptions, right? Because obviously, if they were to, in a way, maybe hopefully they don't attack me back, right? Because of my prior history, and the whole thing about this whole conversation is super obvious that they're just easy pickings for everybody else, but they just can't roast anybody. They just can't. They're just in this position where they just have to take it, because if they were to start criticizing anybody, I'm pretty sure prior to what happened to Chris D'Elia's career, he would be making fun of people. But now, right? I mean, like, obviously one of the biggest ones was like him making fun of Justin Bieber, right? And he had no problem with that until recently. The whole space has changed, and now we're above that. We just can't really be punching down. And if the only people that are allowed is Bill Burr, or maybe they will put Anthony Jeselnik or whoever it might be, because they know if they get their sights on them, then it's just let them have it, because you cannot engage in that conversation with any of those guys that are really pretty much basically like, yeah, these guys are the top tier of it,
that are not above that, who made their living that way, who made their living talking shit, who made their living getting clicks. They're not. They're the people that...
Isn't it funny too that Brendan Schaub, you can kind of say that he made a living off of criticism and talking shit, because he would analyze fights, or he does analyze fights, but all of a sudden now it's like you're not allowed to because it's comedy.
What are they going to do? They can't not do that anymore. But I mean, I saw a clip the other day with these comics that were, they were not well known, but they were talking shit about Kill Tony, and it's like...
Hilarious.
Just...
Why do you care, Chris? If they're not well known, why do you care? Right? That's also another thing about it. Why should you care? They're nobodies, right?
Why? Like, for what? For what?
Because he's the big dog.
I know, but it's like...
when you get to a certain level, like, people are gonna take shots. It's like, it's a weird comparison, but it's like I'll talk shit about the UFC. I love the UFC, but I talk shit about them because they're so massive.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, they're so big. Like,
I understand.
It's just what you do.
It's different when it's a company, when they're talking about actual people.
It's like, Brendan, don't pretend like you've never not talked about anybody that's not UFC, like a lower tier like wrestling fighting promotion, or a lower tiered fighter, right? And you criticize them. I'm sure you have. I'm sure of that. Like, there's no way that you haven't. And then you've also like made fun of like celebrities' kids, and like you're not one to speak about this at all.
People like comedians. It's like that shit affects people.
Yeah, so once again, these comedians prove they're the most sensitive people alive, and Chris just sounds so confused here. Like, Chris thinks talking shit about struggling comics is fine, but if you say something bad about successful comics, then it's too far. And Tony, he was a struggling comic talking shit about other comics at one point. I mean, he's like the prime example of what Chris is talking about here. And obviously comedians have no problem making fun of other celebrities. Like this person says, this podcast, they spend a ton of time talking shit about people. But then, of course, when it's directed at them, then it's too far. And also the best part about Chris defending Kill Tony is the fact that, like this comment points out, they made fun of Chris and Brendan on Kill Tony multiple times. So it's just pathetic what's going on here. I mean, Chris must be desperately trying to get on the show or something, because to go out of your way and defend them and be like, why are so many comedians trashing that show? I hate comedians talking shit about each other, when they have no problem talking shit about him, is just cuck behavior. So I don't know what's going on here, but